Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here as we prepare for the 12th race of the season 3 of the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. Here tonight in the Bluegrass State as Kentucky Speedway Under the Lights plays host to the race that is just 7 races away from our season finale to determine a champion. We're back to racing at the mile and a half as we prepare for 120 laps here tonight. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Matthew Rodriguez, and Matt,
Howdy.
these drivers, they had a mile and a half 2 weeks ago, split it up with Watkins Glen, and the points definitely shuffled up a little bit after last week's road course.
Yeah, the road course, it actually didn't really act as a typical road course race that we saw both at Road America and Circuit of the Americas. It kind of added at least a little bit of new drama, and it did show the way where, Maleska is not invulnerable. He still has the chance to lose the championship if, a series of very unfortunate events happen.
Currently following qualifying here with Robert Maleska III up on the top position over Alex Van de Sant. And it was great to see Alex be able to pick up that victory last week at Watkins Glen. It finished bridesmaid in the first 2 road course races, but finally got that redemption last week. A driver that we saw somewhat struggle, though, as opposed to how he had done at the other road courses, was Maleska III. So what do you think? Glad to be back here at the Speedways as this 91 car?
I don't know if I think he pegged road courses a little bit more for his strong suit, but obviously it's undeniable that he's had recent domination on these speedways, so it easily could be a kind of a Maleska runaway here.
And we talked about this last week at Watkins Glen as well, the huge points gap that he had heading into that race, and coming into tonight at Kentucky, it is 139 points between Maleska III and Alex Van de Sant, and we've talked about the possibility that, as soon as, maybe 3 races from now when we get to Homestead Miami Speedway, Robert Maleska III might have this championship already wrapped up.
Well, if you recall, we had the same situation last season where I believe it was Nick DeGroot. He locked up the championship even before the last race. It was a battle of who got second.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It pretty much came down to everybody going for broke to try and win the season finale, the Indianapolis 500, which will be the case again here this season with, let's be honest, probably the biggest race of the year being the very last race of the year as drivers continue to lay down their qualifying laps. Still Maleska III on the top of the board, Van de Sant in second, and nice run so far here for Eric Peterson up there in the 3rd position. It's not exactly been the best of seasons for him as he finds himself 24th in the standings. And this is a driver that has made every start this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I do actually want to pull your attention to one thing that I've seen, at least in here in qualifying. I'm seeing a lot of these drivers really abuse his apron. So it's a big question of if we're going to try that in the race, and obviously if they do try it in the race, are we going to be let back up the track?
Obviously, these drivers and these cars have a rather low suspension, and yeah, I agree with you. And a lot of times, when you go to the apron at a track like this, it's quite a transition from the banking to the flatter apron on the front straightaway. So, my guess, and I might be wrong, but my guess is we're probably just going to see these drivers utilize it in qualifying. I don't think they'll be as brave to do it during the race.
You never know. Here's the thing. It could save you a few cents, but obviously the risk kind of comes from, hey, you're bottoming out a little bit. You're going off of the banking to basically a flat surface. And Kentucky, that apron up front, that's not a solidly flat apron. That has a good amount of bumps in it. So it can really upset the car and unsettle it.
Now, we mentioned that the point standings got shuffled up quite a bit last week. That was really, though, in the second half of the top 10. The top 5 going in were the top 5 leaving. Nothing changed there, but we're looking at Victor Santos right now in the 24. He lost a spot to Charles Teed up to 6th. Santos down to 7th. Gale Brooks, who's had a number of good runs in the past couple of weeks, moved up to 8th, dropping Kobe Moore down to 9th, and Craig Forsyth dropping down to the 10th position. So a lot of shuffling going on there. There are some close points battles inside the top 5 in the standings coming tonight, though, as well. Matt Wagner, 3rd in points, is only 11 points up over Nick DeGroot, and then only 22 points behind 3rd place is Eric Schaus, who, of course, had that heartbreak last week at Watkins Glen, undoubtedly the dominant car of the day, and then ran out of fuel through the S's with about 6 to go.
We talked to him afterwards, and he explained that he was just so caught up in the moment, and his teammate came over to the microphone saying, hey, passed me on the inside or passed me on the left, and he didn't even think about pitting and got to turn one. I'm running out of fuel. I won't get around the track.
Well, Eric Schaus has had some good numbers at the mile-and-a-half and the speedways this season as well, so maybe another driver coming off of Watkins Glen looking for some redemption. I mean, we had a driver pick up their first win of the season last week, and Alex Van de Sant could lightning strike twice for the second week in a row.
I'd say the guy, and I know I'm going to curse him for this, Gale Brooks is really the guy that I have my eye on here. I mean, if you look at the results, I mean, it's kind of the thing where he has one great week and then 3 down weeks, then another great week and then another 3 down weeks. It's almost like no consistency, but he pulled off a strong 6th place finish at Watkins Glen, had a down week at Vegas, 17th, and then he was 3rd at Gateway. And even though this isn't a Gateway-like track, I feel that experience will carry over.
Looking at Jim Herrick as he's about to, I think, just put his first lap on the board. Herrick was another driver that had a solid outing last week, finished inside of the top 5, if memory serves me correctly. He might have finished just outside the top 5, but I know he was definitely in the top 10 in that race, as it looks like it is going to be Robert Maleska III. It's going to start on his 8th pole of the season, 8 poles and 6 wins now in this season, and trying to pick up, of course, a league-leading 7th win on the year. When he went to victory lane a couple of weeks ago at Las Vegas, he broke the record that Nick DeGroot had of 5 wins in a season, and that was, of course, last year.
Now, Seth, I got to ask you, since I'm usually not in this position where I'm leading the qualifying run, but you are. I mean, how do you deal with? I mean, if you're just a little bit like 100th of a tenth off the pole setting lap, I mean, how do you just kind of say like, I mean, where is he getting that extra speed from?
Well, I mean, you try and observe during the practice session. A lot of drivers near the end of the practice session will go out and test qualifying runs. And so you try and look at the people you think are going to be fast, going to be your competitors, observe what they're doing. But, these drivers do have the opportunity to go out there and be able to attempt a couple of times a qualifying run to see if they can top Robert Maleska III. The thing I've learned, if you have a session like that, more often than not, do a one and done. You go out there and try to constantly improve your lap. It's amazing because you end up putting so much more concentration into it, and you end up losing tenths and hundreds, and you think, wait, hold on. It felt faster, if not the same, as the last time I went out there. So a lot of times in this kind of a situation, you didn't get the pole, but you're up there inside the top 5 for a starting position. Leave it be.
See, I usually just go for comfy. I mean, as long as I'm comfy in all the corners and I'm fine and I like the car. I mean, I'm fine starting anywhere, but I mean, obviously, at least in the IndyCar series and with these cars, of how aerodynamically dependent they are, and I mean, how much draft really affects the kind of the aero of these cars. Starting up front, definitely a lot better than my typical strategy of starting in the back.
So it's looking like a few drivers have not yet gone out there for a qualifying run. Joe McAdory and Nicholas Winook. Not sure if they're going to, as there's less than a minute left here in qualifying. So the top 10 you're looking at there on the left side of your screen is more than likely how they're going to line up for this green flag. I mean, you talked about Gale Brooks, the possibility of getting up there inside the top 5, mixing up for this win. Right now sits in 8th. I also see Charles Teed, our Iowa winner, in 7th, just ahead of him. And you got David Leclerc. He's had a good run in the last couple of mile-and-a-half tracks. He's 6th. And how about Nick DeGroot? The defending champion. We saw him have a decent outing last week at Watkins Glen after some early hardship in the first couple of laps. Had a nice comeback to finish in the top 10. But, I mean, for Nick DeGroot right now, it may be too little too late to make a charge. He's set 170 points or 171 points back, but he's still within striking distance of Matt Wagner and Alex Van de Sant, so maybe just to kind of prove something to himself, he's obviously going to be gunning for second in the standings down this home stretch.
I mean, realistically, you're never out. It's never over until it's, mathematically possible. And here's the thing, as long as the group focuses on his race, hey, he finishes the best possible that he can. Whatever happens with Robert, whether he wins the race or gets involved in an accident, at least hey, I'm putting up points. I'm getting there. So at least if he slips up, I've got a chance.
Drivers now prepare themselves to grid for tonight's event. We'll take a look at the full starting lineup for tonight's race, as it will officially be Robert Maleska III getting his 8th pole on the season. He will be leading us to the green flag here tonight alongside of Alex Van de Sant. And no surprise here that the drivers are 1st and 2nd in points. They're starting 1st and 2nd in tonight's race.
That's the thing. Those two have always really been deadlocked this entire season. And I'm going to tell you, Robert's gotten the upper hand of Alex more often than not, but Van de Sant is honestly looking faster every week.
Definitely is, and still looking for his first Speedway win on the season. As he's second in the points, obviously we know that he's not just good at the road courses. He's been very consistent at the 1.5 2-mile tracks that we've been to, the short tracks as well here for the Speedway configurations. We're still waiting for our pulsar to get out there on the racetrack. Now, a little bit of information for tonight's event, 120 laps. I watched these guys in practice. I think we're going to be going into some long green flag runs here this evening, but that means we could have pit road coming into play. About 40 to 42 laps is about the furthest they can make it on a tank of fuel. So theoretically here, Matt, if we go green from start to finish, these drivers will have to visit pit road a minimum of 2 times.
And again, pit road is such an easy place to get into trouble at, whether you're speeding on entry, maybe you merge a little bit too early on exit. That can easily derail a good race.
Certainly can, as now most cars have gotten onto the pit lane. We were waiting for one more driver to join on pit road, Nicholas Winook, who, as we mentioned, did not lay down qualifying laps, so he may not actually be at his computer right now. We'll keep tabs on that. Yeah, it looks like he is going to miss the start. So if he does arrive here late, we'll see if he'll be able to get all of his laps back when we maybe have ourselves a restart here this evening. A thing these drivers are going to have to worry about is very much so like what we saw back at Auto Club in the season opener. 3 and 4, the car is going to tighten up on them the longer the run goes on, but as the car starts to use up more and more fuel, that back end is going to get lighter, and there's going to be that loose sensation coming off turn 4, and we saw a lot of drivers get bitten by that back at Auto Club.
And again, I almost want to stress, really draft is your best friend here. Obviously, it's going to enable you to really have a lot of these fun runs up top and seeing if you can take it to pass whoever's in front of you. Now, it gets a little bit more complex with when you have about a 3 to 4 car pack. That's going to make things a lot more difficult, a lot more treacherous.
Ace car going to be making the left-hand turn when they come out of turn number 4. To your point, we'll see if any of these drivers decide to actually move down to the apron on this start. Another reason why I'm not sure they would utilize the apron is you'd be going awfully shallow into turn 1. And obviously with these type of cars and the speed they're going to be carrying, you're going to want to be able to arc that as wide as possible to drive it as deep down to that yellow line when you get down to the first corner. But we'll wait and see what happens as Robert Mileska III officially gets us underway here tonight at Kentucky.
Man, they did not get going in the back of the pack. They pretty much all stacked up, got a little bit 3 wide there.
That is, I believe, the one of Nick DeGroot that's in the mix of battle with David Leclerc. Hill Brooks in some new colors here tonight. No, I'm sorry, that's actually Leclerc's car that I'm seeing down there, the Red Bull number 50.
Speaking of Leclerc, he has not had that great of a season, but definitely nice to see him up here having a little bit of a rebound.
Leclerc's biggest issue, I think, is he's one of those drivers that likes to venture up to the outer grooves to try and see if he can lay some rubber down, and at least 2 races that I can think of so far this season, he's gone up and actually hit the outside wall. So as long as he can keep his car down in the lower lanes, I think he'll be safe.
I think we'd call those drivers the ones who like pushing the limits, but just maybe ventures and pushes it just a tad bit too much.
Alex Van de Sant, he was able to get to the inside of Robert Mileska III. Now Mileska still hanging tough on the top side. Looks like he's not going to be able to hang on the outside though through 3 and 4. Van de Sant feeling the momentum of that victory last week. Oh, did he lead that lap? I think he barely might have over Robert Mileska III, but it was close.
Again, this is exactly what Van de Sant needs to do. He needs to get right on the ball and really go out and challenge Mileska here, saying, hey, I am here. You're not going to run away.
And look at this, crossover after crossover after crossover. Now it's Mileska on the top and Van de Sant on the bottom. And that time we saw the inside line not get the momentum through 3 and 4. So that's a little confusing. Not really sure which lane actually has the advantage off the final corner.
Believe it or not, the track may look similar, but turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 are just a slight bit different.
And we're 3 wide. Nick DeGroot took a look there to the inside of Eric Peterson and David Leclerc going into turn 3. Thought better of it, now leaves those two to battle side by side for third place.
To be honest, if you're Nick DeGroot right now, really start pushing the issue, see if you can get by both of these two, or really just kind of bide your time. Well, I think he answered that one for me.
If you've got that momentum, you've got to take it somewhere. If you lift off the throttle, there's other drivers behind you that are ready to pounce and say thank you very much for the free positions.
See, my thought is, obviously, we can see in this lead car pack, there's no draft really pulling you, so being up front is kind of being a sitting duck.
Still, the battle for third place on back is where it is at inside of the top 10. Now Charles Teed enters into the mix. That's the neon yellow and blue machine on the inside line. The similarly colored car behind him, Eric Peterson. And Jim Herrick right there as well, along with Gale Brooks in 6th and 7th. I don't want to say it because I don't want to tempt fate, but if we're going to see a caution come out here in the early stages, it's probably going to be in this group because this is where they're attempting the 3 wide maneuvers.
And that's the thing, 3rd through 12th is pretty much all in this one pack, and there's just so much. Oh, as we saw Matt Wagner almost run into the back of the 94. But, you said it, there's 3 wide all throughout here, but these cars, obviously, they all have the speed, that they just don't have the run or the room to make the passes.
Dropping back here to Matt Wagner, who you just talked about, he started this race in the 10th position, has now fallen back to 14th. He's actually back in a second group. Oh, is that Michael Spell? Yeah, he's up there into the wall. Might have brushed it a little bit with those Firestones.
Yeah, I believe Krista might have just overshot the corners a little bit, didn't realize he was up there, just gave him a little love tap.
And Michael Spell now rather slow on the front straightaway. I don't know if he's just trying to feel out his race car or if he did make more impact than I originally thought, and it's got him somewhat off the pace. He's now dropped all the way back to last car running 24th. But going back to Matt Wagner, you talked about that bit of a stack up on the initial start. I wonder if it was around where Wagner was, and that's why he's lost touch with the lead group.
And that's the thing where, easily if you kind of damage your car in lap 11 or lap 8, you don't want to use that fast repair early. You kind of want to save that for, hey, if we get more catastrophic damage or at least a little bit of big impact. But that's a double-edged sword. Obviously taking it early, yes, you lose it for later, but if you're down on power, maybe aerodynamics is just not there, it lets you keep up with the pack. If you hold on to it for later, you can go multiple laps down.
We're still keeping an eye here on third place on back. We really haven't jumped up to the front because Alex Van de Sant's been pretty comfortable riding in the draft of Robert Maleska III. And of course, last week at Watkins Glen, I was really surprised that in that first run that they were able to go as far as they did and then couldn't go that far in the second run. And we were told the draft came so much into play. I think that's the case right here. Van de Sant says, you know what? I'm not going to use up my tires, not going to use up my fuel, continuing trying this crossover battle with you. I'm going to ride behind you, let you provide the draft for me, use up more fuel with the clean air, and maybe play a little bit of pit strategy against you if we get to a round of green flag pit stops.
And see, that's why we see the battle up here near 3rd and 4th, where a lot of these drivers, they just kind of don't want to be leading this pack. They kind of want to sit behind, save a bit of fuel, and hey, let the draft kind of tow you along, because you can let off the gas a little bit in these corners if you're creative enough and have the good enough.
Riding on board with Eric Schaus in the 72. Not a whole lot of jerking of the wheel. Car looks pretty steady through the corners on the straightaways. Not a lot of movement of the hands, so obviously that car handling to his liking, but I have a feeling with some of these moves that we're seeing being made right now, the car is feeling comfortable, but that comfort is allowing you to maybe make some moves that you might not want to make in certain situations. Oh, yeah, stack up! That was Santos that went up the track. I think Craig Forsyth had to check up in front of him, and the 24 almost went up and got the outside wall as a result.
Man, I was just about to mention Van de Sant was keeping Maleska honest, but man, there is a lot. That just shows you how little of room for error you have, and again, with everyone so close, a little bit of error can cause a very big incident.
Now, we ended up having quite a number of cautions back at Auto Club, which maybe, with the exception of tonight's race at Kentucky, one of the wider racetracks, both on the straightaway and in the corners. So far here tonight, 17 laps in the books, and they've been able to keep it under the green flag. So Right now, the hope and the possibility of green flag pit stops look very possible. The thing that I'm a little bit worried about, though, is we've seen now twice some contact made over there in 3 and 4. The more and more that right front tire starts to heat up, the more tighter that car is going to be. And with these side-by-side battles, we could end up seeing one of those mistakes you just talked about.
I mean, obviously, if someone gets a little bit of impatience, doesn't want to ride behind so yes, they can overdrive it, kind of relying on that right front tire to kind of take the brunt of the damage and kind of propel them past. But the biggest issue is, hey, we start heating up his right front tire so much. I mean, it does have the possibility to blow out. But also, I mean, hey, when you try that move again, you just won't have that grip, and kind of the wall is there to catch you then.
Well, somebody tried the apron there on the front straightaway. Matt Gale Brooks took it 3 wide to try and pass for the seventh position. And even though he took a rather shallow entry to turn 1, was able to hold the ground. Wow! Oh, and it's going to spin as Gale Brooks after contact with himself and Moskowitz. No caution, though, as that spin was down to the entrance of pit road.
Yeah, I know Moskowitz was not too pleased about that move. I think he was a little bit confused why he was down there.
Well, the commentator's curse is alive and well, that's for sure, as Maleska and Van de Sant continue to lay down really good lap times. I mean, right now, these two alone are running lap times anywhere from 3 to 4 tenths faster than third place on back.
And that's the thing where both these guys are like, hey, I mean, what's the point in battling right now if we can really just hook up nose to tail and make the battle between us two? Obviously, this works in Maleska's favor because, again, he doesn't even have to win this race to maintain the points lead. He just has to stay there.
How frustrating has that got to be for Van de Sant? I mean, obviously elated that he won last week at Watkins Glen, but even the good finishes he gets at the speedways, the 91's always right there in the vicinity, so there's not a whole lot of points gained, if any, for the 317.
And see, that's what we were talking about last week, and we talked about this the entire season where, listen, you can easily lose points here, gain points here, but if you don't perform at the beginning part of the season, don't really have that good jump, don't have consistency, it can easily mess you over for the later part of the season where, again, Alex is really we're putting up a charge to Robert here, but I mean, Robert's had an amazing season, pretty much flawless. I mean, I don't even know if he had a DNF this season.
I believe he had, well, I'm trying to remember if it was a DNF. I know he was involved in a wreck and didn't finish very well back at Phoenix. I don't recall if he finished that race out and finished, I think he finished just inside the top 20, I think, but I can't remember if it was a DNF or if it was just a poor finish with a damaged race car. I'd have to check on that.
But see, that's just a difficulty here where, I mean, we can't remember the last time that Robert had a bad race. I mean, we can kind of pinpoint a few incidents where Van de Sant may have had bad races, may have had bad incidents that kind of affected him and got him in this position.
There it is. Well, my memory was partially correct. It was indeed Phoenix, where Robert Maleska III was caught up in an incident, but he brought that wounded machine back. No, he finished 8th, though. So it was definitely inside the top 20, but higher up than I thought.
Man, this battle for looks like third on back is just kind of intensifying here. It looks like more cars have gotten involved.
And the thing of it is, too, as these drivers continue to have their cars get tighter, it's actually bringing a little bit more multi-groove racing in as well. Some drivers still comfortable with running the bottom, but I'm seeing quite a number of these guys now migrate up not only to the second, but also kind of the second and a half groove with their machines.
I mean, I remember when we were racing back in different leagues, I mean, you'd have guys who would purposely run different lines, just rubber down later in the race where, hey, I mean, yes, the bottom line may be the quicker line around the track, but I want to use this top line later in the race, so I'm going to run maybe 20, 30, 40 laps up from the top, just putting some rubber down. Oh, Tara's almost teed, got into David Leclerc.
That would be a battle for third place. Teed with backing off now falls back to Eric Schausen. Yeah, a thing of it that we've kind of learned during the course of this season as well, a lot of drivers going up there trying to lay rubber down in the second group at these speedways. What I think that the main plan has been for them, and I've kind of looked at it the wrong way, I've thought that they've thought about using that as a passing zone. What they've actually been doing, I believe, is put that rubber up there to put it there as a setup zone. Because you get that grip up there, you get a better exit off of either 2 or 4, and it translates to straightaway speed for you to be able to pull that crossover down low, whether you make the move on the back or the front straightaway.
And see, that's also the road course mentality. We saw it last week at Watkins Glen, where I can't remember who we were on board with, but they were going out a little bit further, utilizing all of the pavement right before the grass.
We nearly had some, well, I think we did have some contact there. Eric Schaus and Craig Forsyth, as Wagner, Schaus, and Forsyth were 3 wide coming off of turn 4. Fortunately, everybody was able to keep it straight as the 27 had to back off.
Man, that 72 cannot catch a break.
Been a couple of near moments here. Yes, we've run 30 laps now officially clean and green, but there's definitely been some contact exchanged with these drivers. Fortunately, there's been cooler heads prevailing, smart heads prevailing, realizing there's still quite a ways to go. Back off, survive for another lap.
And that's the vital thing where, again, it may not sound very exciting, but you really need to survive. Oh, no!
Nope, that time that spun around, and that was Matt Wagner in the 99. Caution's going to come out for the first time here tonight. And this caution is going to make things interesting in more ways than one, Matt, because if we had managed to get the lap 40, lap 41, lap 42, somewhere around there where these drivers were going to have to make a trip to pit road, and we know that would have been only one more trip to pit lane. I don't think that these drivers at this point in time would be able to make it to the conclusion of this race without still having to come to pit road twice.
And see, that easily messes up some pit strategies here where some of these guys probably were thinking, hey, I can make a one-stop race or I can play my pit stop right here and I'll be all good to the end. Well, now your perfect strategy may have a few kinks in it.
Matt Wagner came into this race third in the point standings. Was within striking distance of maybe being able to take second place from Alex Van de Sant here tonight, depending on the luck of the 317. And as we look at what happened here, it just kind of looks like he got a big run, thought about making a move 3 wide on Charles Teed and David Leclerc, thought better of it, and just backed off a little too much. Or Eric Schaus, rather, just was not ready for him to pull up that slowly in the interest of turn 3.
And see, that's, you kind of get that overconfidence of, I mean, I've got the downforce to kind of stick it in this corner, and unfortunately, just a little bit too fast a closing rate and a little bit too miscalculation just on the front end.
We're going to take a look at that said closing rate on board with Eric Schaus, and watch here again. The car ahead of him is Matt Wagner. He's going to run down low. Looks like he's going to take a peek right there. Decides against it. I'm not necessarily certain. There might not have been a little bit of contact between the back end of Charles Teed and the front end of Matt Wagner or not, but you can clearly see just nothing that Eric Schaus could do, just a split-second moment, and unfortunately just not enough reaction time available for the 72 to also back off and not hit the back of the 99.
You know, I know this might be a little bit brave to say, but I mean, I really say ever since Gateway, after Wagner kind of had those issues that forced him to finish out early, I mean, he just almost kind of hasn't looked like the same driver ever since then.
Well, he's done well at the road courses. He didn't do too badly last week at Watkins Glen. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Matt Wagner started out the season strong. He won the season opener at Auto Club. And while there has been consistency here and there have been some moments as well where he hasn't finished where he's been running pretty much for the entirety of the race. And I think this kind of translates back again to the qualifying effort that he had. Qualified 10th. And then we had that stack up on the initial start of the race. It kind of dropped him back. I mean, who knows if he had had a better qualifying effort, if he might not have been up here with Van de Sant and Robert Maleska ahead of that big group that was battling for third place where that contact occurred.
And you got to think, I mean, this stings. I mean, 30, 33, 34 laps in, all you have to use your fast repair. And, you know, obviously it's great you're still running, but I mean, that kind of hurts. I mean, there's still about a good 3/4 of the race to go here.
And we had a couple of drivers that also had some moments here under caution. Craig Forsyth, he was on pit road for an extended period of time, possibly getting some damage repaired. He's still on the lead lap, will restart 18th. You mentioned about Matt Wagner getting the fast repair. He's still on the lead lap in 19th, and we do have a driver out of the race. I believe
I'm looking at is AJ Musselman.
Yeah. I did not see him get involved in an incident, but he has retired out of the race, it does look like. So it appears he will finish 24th in tonight's event.
I'm looking back and I'm just a bit confused because I mean he came off of pit road normally and just kind of pulled down in the middle of turn 1 and 2 and just stopped. So I'm
Maybe
not quite
maybe
sure.
a starting park. I don't know.
It could be obviously, obviously very weird.
Michael Spell, we saw go up and get the outside wall. He is a lap down. And that car down the inside, ahead of your race leader now, Alex Van de Sant, who actually won the battle off pit road, is Gale Brooks, who is 2 laps down. I'm pretty certain that this league does not have waiver rounds, so I think Gale Brooks is actually just going to have to drop back here behind the race leaders. So I believe he's actually going to be 3 laps down when we go back green flag racing. We should be getting the 1 to green signal this time by, I do believe.
No. Waiver rounds are on lap right before green.
Oh, okay. So we do have waiver rounds. All right. Must have been thinking of a different league where I thought that they actually didn't have waiver rounds, but no, Gale Brooks is going to take the waiver round, get one of the laps back, so we'll be -2 when we go back green flag racing.
See, that's such a dangerous game where, I mean, here's the thing, you're right at your pit window or almost at your pit window. Everyone else has stopped, took fuel, took gas, or took fuel, took tires, and you're deciding to kind of stay out, roll the dice, bet on another caution, coming out really quick so you can not really lose on this strategy.
Way they'll line up for this restart. Alex Van de Sant, Robert Maliska III, Eric Schaus, who, as you've documented, has kind of been used up here, there, and everywhere on that first run. He's third with David Leclerc and Charles Teed in fourth and fifth. Victor Santos will be sixth, followed by Nick DeGroot. How about Jimmy Drynan? Solid outing here tonight by the 94. He's been up inside of the latter half of the top 10 pretty much since we dropped the green flag. He'll be eighth with Jim Herrick in ninth, and Dylan Moskowitz going to complete the top 10. And if there's a driver in the field here tonight as well that really needs a good run to get his program back going, it's Covey Moore restarting back there in 11th. He has been maybe one of the underdog consistent drivers of the season. Constantly pops up there into the top 10, sometimes the top 5 late, but Watkins Glen last week just did not go his way.
Man, I was hoping you wouldn't mention Covey. He was having a really good race.
Well, you know, you jinx the driver, I have to jinx the driver. No, hopefully I won't jinx the driver. I broke the commentator's curse a couple of weeks ago, so hopefully it's over for me. We'll see.
And the Sant obviously gets off to a really good start. Robert Maliska in tow. Schaus, surprisingly, is up in third here.
And we'll see if he's going to be able to mix it up here with the top 2. We had these two, Van de Sant and Maliska III, break away from the second group by almost 3 seconds on the first green flag run. Doesn't look like they're going to get away that easily this time. Schaus and Leclerc sticking with them.
Realistically, I think what really allowed them to break away was third and fourth were really battling for position and kind of allow the top 2 to single file and really pull away.
But now it's a 4-car breakaway, about 4/10 back to Charles Teed. And Victor Santos and Nick DeGroot in 6th and 7th. We got a car that's actually starting to fall back here. 57 of Jim Herrick, and a big reason for that is he's being freight trained on the top side. Covey Moore making the move 3 wide into turn 3.
And that's easy because 3 wide moves work when your tires are all brand new, but wait about 5 laps. I don't know if that will work anymore.
That I've been noticing, though, drivers been very brave to go down to the inside line going through 3 and 4, but I don't know if they can't get the power down or if the car is just getting a little too loose on them on corner exit. They cannot keep the momentum going by the time they get to the front straightaway. It almost seems like the middle line in a 3 wide exchange is in the advantage.
Looks like T drove down into Schaus a little bit. Schaus is now falling back.
And we also had, I think, was that Eric Peterson went awfully wide through 3 and 4, losing a number of spots, now all the way back to 16th.
Let's see if Santos actually having a good run here.
Santos coming into this race 7th in the points. Has had a very good 1.5-mile program.
It kind of surprised me that he wanted to skip Watkins Glen due to, obviously he had a okay showing at Coda. I don't know why he decided to skip.
It certainly cost him in the point stands. I think he was top 5 in the points heading into that race, and because he didn't start at Coda, he actually dropped outside the top 5, where he currently finds himself in a pretty bare knuckle fight with drivers like Charles Teed, Gale Brooks, and Covey Moore from about 6th on down through 9th.
Well, I'll tell you, the top belt 2 through 4th, or 2nd through 5th. Really hoping that Robert decides maybe take a few weeks off, kick his legs up.
Somehow I don't think that's going to happen. Robert Maleska III trying to build on what's been a record-setting season with 6 trips to victory lane, including a streak of 4 wins in a row.
And it's 2 by 2 by 2.
Drop back a little bit further here outside of the top 10, and that's where you find Jim Brooks in the 76. Jeff Hysong in the 18, just outside the top 10, right now in 14th, and Craig Forsyth trying to bounce back. He restarted in the 19th position when we went back green, picked up 6 spots since the restart.
Just looking here throughout the field, and I just heard over the microphone that looks like Nick DeGroot, Charles T were trying to work together to see if they can catch that front pack until I heard DeGroot just come over the microphone saying, "Hey, I've lost him.
They've got Eric Schaus with him as well, and with that being said, saying I've lost him, Charles T says, all right, let's battle for the 5th position then. He's going to move around Nick DeGroot and crack his way back into the top 5. We've also got a pretty spirited battle going on here for the race lead. Van de Sant put a move on Robert Maleska III, couldn't complete the pass, but now David Leclerc right there at the top 3, literally nose to tail heading into turn 3.
Leclerc is definitely making them kind of on edge here, definitely think. And we're also bringing Santos in tow.
And if you're David Leclerc, Victor Santos back here, and you're watching these moves being made by Van de Sant and Maleska III or vice versa, you're tempted with your run to try and make it 3 wide. But how do you kind of rein yourself back in and say, hey, it's too early to be making a risky move like this?
See, here's the thing. I take it from David's kind of position here where, I mean, if I were him, I have got nothing to lose. I mean, I had a fairly one good run this season, which was Phoenix. I managed to pull 3rd place finish, but in pretty much all my 4 or 5 other races this season, I've had a wreck in them. So, I mean, here's the thing. Let me try pushing limits. I mean, there's nothing for me to lose.
Now, a driver that we know already has utilized his fast repair after being involved in our only caution up to this point, Matt Wagner. He hasn't made a whole... Oh, my goodness!
Oh.
I shouldn't have talked about him. Contact between himself, and I believe that might have possibly been Jeff Hysong in the 18. He spins through the grass. I think another car hit the outside wall in the front straightaway. Second caution flies here tonight at Kentucky.
Man, Gardner has to be dizzy after all those flips.
Craig Forsyth, I think, might have gotten a piece of it as well. And yes, to your point, Garner was the other car that I saw shoot up the racetrack there on the front stretch. Let's go back and see what happened. I think that Matt Wagner actually was trying to make some forward progress, was making some pretty dicey moves back here, and this one just did not pan out. The contact was indeed between himself and, actually, I think that might have been the 77 of Benjamin Combs. They came up on a slower car who had either been in the outside wall or was off the pace.
And see, that's like that for Wagner, pretty much race over. And that just kind of shows, I mean, again, you don't want to use your fast repairs early, and now you've got nothing, and hey, you got 30 minutes of damage. You're pretty much out of contention.
So the driver that was up in the wall on the front straight, it was actually the 27 of Craig Forsyth. I think he's going to make some contact between himself and the 57 of Jim Herrick right there. That's going to have him way off the pace, and the 77 of Combs trying to go down the void, doesn't realize he has a car to his inside. Gale Brooks in the 71 also goes flipping down towards pit road exit, and there you see that wild ride by James Garner.
I mean, I'll play devil's advocate here a little bit, where, I mean, Forsyth, I mean, obviously, yeah, he shouldn't have come right off the wall after being hit, but, I mean, at that moment, you're just trying to get as far away from the wall as possible, just get yourself back right, and by the time that he realized, oh, there's a 3-wide pack of cars coming, he tried his best to get out of the way, but at that time, the best thing you can be is predictable, and he was, unfortunately, anything but.
Gracious. Tony Hawk would be proud of the wall ride Josh Garner had there on the front straightaway, as he actually went up high to avoid Craig Forsyth and then just had a perfect view there on the onboard of the wild ride that he took. And you're right, that car just never stopped flipping.
Pretty much by the time that Forsyth realized he was in trouble, it was pretty much too late.
Now, how about this strategy? 3 drivers electing to stay out under this caution. Charles Teed, Eric Schaus, and Jimmy Drynan. Now, already mentioned that for most of these drivers, they would have had to have been to pit road at least 2 more times with the timing of our first caution back around lap 32. Now, with this caution coming out, all the drivers that came to pit lane, they'd be able to make it the rest of the way on one more pit stop, as now Jimmy Drynan makes a late move to pit road. I don't think he made the commitment box. But, I mean, these two here, I'm not really certain what the strategy is of staying out, because I even think with saving under these pacing laps that you cannot make it to the end of this race without being on pit road at least 2 more times. Everybody else behind them, they're only going to have to pit once.
They might be pulling a little bit of a bold move here and just kind of banking on another caution, maybe.
We'll have to wait and see. I mean, even if they get another caution, that's a lot of track position they would lose if people stayed out.
It will be. It's definitely going to be a little bit tough.
Gale Brooks, it's like his day is over. He'll be finishing 23rd here tonight. Josh Garner, Benjamin Combs still sit on pit road getting damage repaired. Garner has fallen 3 laps down. Combs has fallen 2 laps down. Matt Wagner still on the lead lap. He's been down pit road several times here under caution, trying to get that damage repaired. Now, I guess the good news, if there is good news for Matt Wagner, is the contact that was made, the brunt of it was to the side of the race car, the right side of the race car, not really anywhere around the wing on the front, not really anywhere around the engine. So being broadsided and then spinning through the grass with no additional contact, he might be, and I'll put this in quotes, all right, at least to still be out there on the racetrack and potentially still up to speed.
See, that's where you start worrying about maybe a little bit of camber issues, or obviously issues with the car just driving straight, but also there's aerodynamic issues that kind of pop up in your head like, this could possibly affect me.
So Alex Van de Sant was actually the first off of pit road of the drivers that came down pit lane. David Leclerc came out second, so he will line up in I'm sorry. Robert Maleska third was actually the first off pit road. He'll restart third. Then Van de Sant and David Leclerc will be 4th and 5th. Victor Santos, Nick DeGroot 6th and 7th. Then Dylan Moskowitz, Kobe Moore, and Jeff Heisung, the top 10 behind 2 drivers that elected to now stay out, Charles Teed and Eric Schaus. This is going to be interesting too for let's say that everybody ends up reaching the fuel window of lap 80, where they make their final pit stop and know that they're good to go the rest of the way, and we have a late race caution. Some drivers might like to come down pit road and put on fresh tires, but if these 20-lap-old Firestones for Teed and Schaus are able to hold up and at least maintain some good track position, other drivers might take notice of that.
Absolutely, and Seth, I got some really good news for you. We didn't commentators curse Kobe yet. Kobe's still hanging tough. Yet. Kobe's still hanging tough.
I would like to point out that the driver you highlighted is now out of the race, but I digress.
I mean, that really just encompasses Gale Brooks' season. I mean, he gets one good race and then 3 more bad races. There's been another good race and 3 more bad races. It's just kind of piled on this season.
And it almost invariably seems to happen to him when he's having a good run up inside of the top 10, as it did here tonight. Josh Garner has actually now joined Gale Brooks, AJ Musselman in the garage area as well. As the green flag back in the air, and Charles Teed, Eric Schaus, this is exactly what the two of them needed with those old tires. Open up as big a gap as you possibly can early on ahead of Robert Maleska III and Alex Van de Sant, who have had 2 of the fastest cars in the field so far.
Like I said, I don't agree with what those two are doing right now and just battling side by side. I'd say, hey, let's get nose to tail. Let's go. Let's just run it right here.
And now third on back, got themselves a little bit lined up there. Victor Santos now going to jump to the outside of Van de Sant, but you see right there, the draft kicking in. The 91 has caught the slipstream of the 5, and now you're about to have 7 cars up in this lead group.
That's the thing. Here's where we can get caught in a really bad freight train if you're not picking the right lines, or if you pick the wrong line, or maybe you can just touch the wall a little bit.
Schaus is going to lead that lap, but right behind him on the top side is Robert Maleska III, and He's going to take the third lane going into turn 1. That's going to force 3 wide behind him. Here comes Van de Sant down low, and even lower Santos. Santos going to try and pass 4 cars in the span of 2 corners in a straightaway, and he did it.
I know Schaus was not, or Bleska was not happy with that move from Schaus.
And Schaus really had to back off there through 3 and 4 to make sure that he didn't get wrecked as he was in the middle of the 3 wide situation. And these guys keep looking like they want to go 3 wide again. Oh, are we looking 4 wide down the backstretch? Almost.
Well, if I remember back earlier in the season, I believe that it was at Gateway where both Santos and I believe it was Charles Teed came together.
And he nearly just came together with Van de Sant right there on the front straightaway, did Teed.
So it's over the same things where it was track space. Teed was shoving Santos all the way down to the apron. Santos finally said, I had enough, and pulled back off the racetrack.
So far, they've been able to keep it together, but we've had a couple of moments where there probably should have been a yellow flag waving and wasn't. Robert Maleska III was the one that got used up the most in all of that battling. He was up on the top side 3 wide for a good portion of it. And, that's another thing, too, that Robert's going to have to keep in mind down this home stretch. With the huge points gap that he has, a lot of drivers right now are so far back, they're not going to be able to battle for the championship. There's maybe 3, 4, 5 drivers that still have a mathematical shot of at least making it a bit of a battle for the championship in Indianapolis. So those other drivers that are out of it, they're probably going to race Robert Maleska III a little bit differently than they did earlier on this year, because for Maleska, he's just trying to remain consistent, win a championship. For these other drivers, they know the championship's out of their grasp. Now they want to find victory lane.
I mean, there's always that kind of gentleman spirit. Obviously, you don't want to kind of put them in a bad spot, but obviously, again, you're trying to make sense of your season. You're not in the chase for a championship. You are out. So, I mean, you're just trying to make sense and say, hey, I mean, was this season all worthless for me, or can I come out with a win or a good run that'll kind of make me happier at the end?
Well, Nick DeGroot found victory lane, the defending champion, back at Phoenix for his first and only win on the season. He is now out in front, but it's Bright Yellow Machines 1-2 as now the neon yellow car jumps to the high side, Victor Santos. And Santos, talk about a driver racing aggressive here tonight. He's been making some very dicey moves on this run.
Let's also not cut Nick DeGroot short. I mean, DeGroot had a terrible start to the season, and he slowly managed to claw his way back here and just to be in the contention of winning the championship. That's just incredible in itself.
Right now, Van de Sant and Robert Maleska III, they're looking around him saying, hey, wait, hold on, what happened? It was a mano-a-mano in the beginning portions of this race. Where'd all these guys come from?
And I'm going to tell you, that's exactly not what Van de Sant wants to see. Van de Sant would rather see Robert Maleska caught back up in traffic and him battling up here for the lead. That definitely is gonna irk him a little bit.
Absolutely, as he's trying to do all he can to close up a triple-digit points gap between himself and Robert Maleska III. And now Nick DeGroot kind of getting freight trained here. Maleska, Santos, and I believe that was Teed all jumped up to the outside down the back straightaway, but didn't look like it made up enough ground. Woo, Van de Sant got a little loose there, as did Santos, and they're going to go side-by-side for third.
You know, I was looking back in the field. I think Alpha 4, Leclerc might have actually touched the wall a little bit.
Well, David Leclerc, if that's the case, then he might be perfect in brushing the outside wall at the mile-and-a-half tracks we've gone to so far this season. I know that he did it back at Texas. I'm pretty sure that he did it at Atlanta, and I'm fairly certain he also brushed the wall back at Las Vegas, so he might be a perfect 3 for 3.
And see, that's the thing where, I mean, you're pushing so much, and you're in this pack, and you want to find something else that someone, or obviously all your competitors don't have. You're going to start exploring a little bit, pushing the limits, and that's the thing where he's just kind of explored that limit a little bit too much.
Now, we do not have the statistics for Season 1 for Dark Horse, but we do have the statistics for last season, Season 2. Now, these drivers never did drive Kentucky back in Season 2. A lot more newer tracks here on the schedule, since the schedule was expanded from 11 races now to 18 this year. Closest track to Kentucky that I can see that they were at last year would have probably been another mile-and-a-half track at Homestead Miami Speedway. And Nick DeGroot was the winner of that race. Nick DeGroot actually had quite a number of mile-and-a-half wins last season. And right now, he's putting on a pretty good challenge here for Robert Maleska III.
And see, these longer seasons, I mean, drivers hate him, drivers love him. And they hate him and like him for very different reasons, where, I mean, here's the thing, you kind of have to stay on your A game longer. I mean, again, the group managed to win the championship in an 11-race season. I mean, we just swapped to an 18-race season. So, I mean, if you're a points leader, you have to stay honest for longer. I mean, you've got to keep performing week after week.
Top 5 have all broken away. You talked about Leclerc getting the wall. I don't know if that has affected his speed or not, but it's kind of wadded up this second group. Dylan Moskowitz is here, as well as Eric Schaus, Kobe Moore there as well. You got a little group of 4. Then you drop back and find a group of 2 with Jim Herrick in 10th and Jeff Heisong in 11th. Then you've got a little bit slightly bigger pack with Jim Brooks, Gary Corley, Eric Peterson, Jimmy Drynan. That's 12th on back through 15th. So the field is kind of grenaded again, little fragments here and there of little pockets of cars.
I mean, here's the thing, even with how hard they're racing, I mean, I'm still seeing some kind of gentleman action going on. I mean, Kobe Moore, I mean, I saw him in 3 and 4. He backed off before he got in the corner because he didn't want to run Leclerc a little bit tight. And this thing where, hey, we're still within about 40 laps from the end. So you're still going to give each other a little bit of room, but I mean, I'm kind of curious as laps run down, how close you're going to start cutting people.
I got a couple of questions. I'll ask the first one here about the 2 drivers that elected to stay out. Now, we know that they're definitely off sequence in terms of pit strategy, but Charles Teed has only fallen back to 5th. He's actually still latched on to the tail end of this lead group. And Eric Schaus was the other one. He's actually coming to pit road. But no, he's not. He's wrecked. Caution has come out. Well, I was going to ask, is it successful, those 2 drivers that elected to stay out? I think we know the answer for Eric Schaus now.
I believe your commentator's curse might have struck.
I didn't pick him to, okay.
Just wait. Just wait till you see the replay.
Oh. Well, I mean, he didn't wreck. Kobe Moore is the car we're watching back here, the white machine, the number 15, as he's going to, well, in essence, run over the 72, just different lifting points going into turn 3 for those 2 respective drivers.
And you may think, hey, he just kind of ran him over, but remember here, I mean, Kobe had newer tires, and again, Eric had a little bit more worn down tires, so he had to let off and kind of angle himself a little bit more into the corners where Kobe easily could just drive it further on in with the newer tires.
A great point. Well, with this caution coming out here, Matt, it makes things even more interesting. Everybody has come down pit road. However, according to the numbers, even if we get back green flag racing around lap 77, 78, these drivers are going to be anywhere from 4 to 5 laps short on fuel.
And here comes the big question where, I mean, hey, do I lift on a few laps, let draft kind of carry me through, or do I kind of just run as fast as I can and pit where I think is necessary?
Now we're going to have to see how it all plays out as Maleska III's team in that number 1 pit box gets the job done. He'll be leading us back to green. We saw fuel strategy last week at Watkins Glen knock out the dominant car of the day, Eric Schaus. Could Kentucky be planning its own little fuel strategy race here in the closing stages? We'll find out in just a few moments. We're going to be waiting for that pace car to turn them loose for what will probably be somewhere around 42, 43 laps to go. We're going to step aside, though, for a quick commercial break. We'll be back here for the restart in just a moment as you're watching the Dark Horse IndyCar Series Season 3 presented by HyperX.
It's a road few dare to travel, a journey filled with danger and unpredictability. So why do we traverse this road? Why do we take such a gamble? Because if we don't try, we'll never know what we could have achieved. That's why we strap in, rev up, and fix our focus on the ultimate prize. Because the reward is well worth the risk. The 2021 NNSCRA Daytona 500, Saturday, February 20th, exclusively on Flat Out Racing Network.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and distributors. And with 6 nationwide warehouses, we're where and when you need us. So when you're looking for a transmission that is like new, only better, instill confidence and install ETE Reman.
It's a road few dare to travel, a journey filled with danger and unpredictability. So why do we traverse this road? Why do we take such a gamble? Because if we don't try, we'll never know what we could have achieved. That's why we strap in, rev up, and fix our focus on the ultimate prize. Because the reward is well worth the risk. The 2021 NNSCRA Daytona 500, Saturday, February 20th, exclusively on Flat Out Racing Network.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee.
Green flag set to come back out as Robert Molesky III prepares to get us back under the green flag. And if you're doing the math along with us up there on the top left, we're going back green flag racing with 43 laps left. We know that the fuel window is 40 to 42 laps max. Matt, you were talking about it during that commercial break. Some do's and don'ts for these drivers if this thing goes green to the end.
Absolutely. I mean, here's the thing. Why Robert Molesky looks like he's in the perfect position right now. He's actually in the worst position. I mean, when you're a leader, you're not saving fuel. You're breaking the air for everyone else. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see him let the group get by just so we can ride behind him. But the group wants to do the exact same thing. He may be tight on fuel too, and he kind of wants to save here a little bit.
It's kind of the opposite of what a driver is trained to do. They're trained, go up to the front, lead this race, but it's going to be kind of a bit of hot potato. No, you take it. No, you take I don't want it, as far as being out in front and cutting that draft.
And here's the thing. I mean, you may think that I'm good on fuel, but obviously, again, you may have 43 laps on your tank, but you got to make it around 44 times because you got to complete that lap.
Too, I would think it'd be very difficult if you are a race leader to be able to drop back safely, just based on a number of the wrecks we've seen here tonight have been drivers going into a corner, one slower than the other. I mean, if you lift to try and let somebody on by, there's no guarantee that they're not going to run the same line you are, not be prepared for you to lift as much in your attempt to let them on by, and next thing you know, both you and they find yourselves wrecked.
You know, I don't even know if I want to drop back just because of, you know, again, track position. Track position's been so vital tonight where, yeah, I could drop all the way back to 5th, 6th, but I don't know if I'm going to get back up there with how everyone's been racing.
Now, we did go back green with 43 to go. They ran, I believe it was 3 laps under pacing. I don't know just how much fuel you can actually save going around 3 laps here at the mile-and-a-half Kentucky, so it may be even closer than we think in terms of who can make it the furthest and who cannot, or even who can make it to the checkered flag. Everybody right now is on the same fuel strategy. Everyone came to pit road under that last caution. There's nobody that's trying to stretch it any further than another driver.
You got to remember, if your car runs out of fuel and it dies, these cars do not have starters in them. You have to return to pit road to get your car restarted. Even if the car dies, if you can't make it to pit road, I mean, that's effectively your race.
Now, at this point in time, you talk about track position, only 7 cars up in this lead group. Jim Herrick is leading a second group of about 4 drivers. Jim Brooks, Jeff Heisel, and Gary Corley in this group. So obviously, these drivers are hoping for a caution to come out to give them another shot of getting up here to battle for the race lead. But what about these guys up here in this top 7? Obviously, a caution would save you. You could come down pit road, take on the fuel you need, make it to the conclusion, but at the same time, you're giving up the gap you've got back to 8th place and the opportunity of a 1 in 7 chance of winning tonight.
See, this is almost like a poker game where you're trying to bluff, but you have enough fuel to make it to the end. You're trying to dare everyone, hey, come match me. And that's the thing where I don't believe Santos has enough fuel. I don't think the group has enough fuel. But Santos is trying to run like he has enough fuel and trying to say, hey, look, I've got enough fuel to make it. If you guys don't try and pass me now, I'm going to run away with this.
And right now, he does show the way, does Santos. DeGroot took a little look there. Actually, he's going to keep looking on the front straightaway. Woo! That's a bit close there as Santos comes down to throw the block, but DeGroot had a pretty good run there, so that was a risky block on the part of the 24.
And that's the thing. I heard Santos come over to the microphone and say, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get you that close. And DeGroot said, don't worry about it. Keep going.
Now, Robert Maleska III, we talked about him trying to fall back. He's now slotted into 4th place. So this might be a case of him realizing the fuel situation, just wanting to position himself to get some draft, save some fuel. The guy I'm looking at right now, that since we went back green, has been at the tail end of this group, has been that 3 of Dylan Moskowitz. Now, his teammate is Robert Maleska III, the both of them out of Twisted Trojan Motorsports. The good luck has been on the side of Robert Maleska III, not so much for Dylan Moskowitz. I mean, could Moskowitz possibly be the guy to pull off the fuel strategy run here tonight?
I mean, again, we're looking at his previous results. I mean, earlier in the season, he kind of got off to a decent hot streak, and then around Twin Ring, it just kind of all started falling apart. And then back at Gateway, Las Vegas, he really started getting the mojo back, and I mean, hey, see him up here running well.
And he may not right now be up in the lead pack, but he is inside the top 10, the 3rd entry out of Twisted Trojan. Jeff Heisong, solid outing for him here tonight, 9th on the running order. And this is a driver that's made a limited number of starts this season. I believe he has started 5 of the races so far, 30th in the point standings. He does have 1 top 10, and right now en route to maybe getting his 2nd top 10 on the season as Alex Van de Sant goes back to the front. It's actually been a while since we've seen that 317 leading this race. He's been up in the top 3 pretty much the entirety of the night, but he only led about maybe 10-15 laps at the beginning stages of tonight's festivities.
You know, I don't know if I can state this enough, but it is so relieving to see David Leclerc up here running and not in a wall. I mean, that is just kind of a nice change of pace for him, and this is really the run that he needs this week.
Absolutely. Now, we've had, believe, 6 different winners this season. Only one, that of course being Robert Maleska III, has gone to victory lane more than once. Look at some of the drivers we've got up here trying to be the 2nd multi-time winner on the season. You got Van de Sant, our winner from Watkins Glen, Nick DeGroot, our winner from Phoenix, and Charles Teed, our winner from Iowa. They represent 3 of the top 4 right now.
To be honest, if I was Van de Sant, I'd be kind of looking at the big picture here, and I'd be trying to save a little bit of fuel because I'm looking at Maleska. Maleska just dropped back to 7th place. He's obviously saving fuel. I mean, I'm looking at his previous laps. I'm looking at how he's driving the car, and it's just he's driving in a more relaxed manner, just trying to look like he's really just saving fuel. I mean, Van de Sant, I'd say, hey, get behind the group, kind of try to save some fuel, and I mean, hey, hope that Robert times this wrong. If Robert times this wrong and you have enough fuel, that's probably about a 10th, 15th, 20th place finish for Robert. And that's a good top 5, top 10. You could easily kind of rebound off of this.
With Nick DeGroot and Charles Teed run up here inside of the top 5. You also got Eric Schaus right now back in 11th. It's looking like Matt Wagner might be heading into next week outside the top 5 in points. He brought his car to the garage area 2 cautions ago. Will finish 21st here this evening, and this might possibly be, I'd have to go back and look, this might be the first DNF finish of the season for the 99 car.
No, I believe the first DNF of the season was at Gateway, and that's pretty much all where the start issues started, to be honest.
So tough break there for Matt Wagner, who was involved in not one but two incidents prior to the halfway point of this race, and will not be around here for a chance of picking up his second win on the season. Of course, won the season opener at Auto Club as Van de Sant and Nick de Groot continue to battle each other here, and it looks like Van de Sant, he's saying to Nick de Groot, if you're going to pass me low. And de Groot's been more than willing to go down there, but he just has not been able to get that needed speed off the corner to translate to straightaway speed to complete the said pass.
Yeah. I'm reading Teed here, and Teed, at least in my opinion, he's in the perfect position where, I mean, he's kind of riding in third. He's watching these two up here battle, but he's getting an ample amount of draft, kind of just laying back, sitting here and saying, hey, I'll let you guys kind of fight it out. I'm just going to save fuel, get tugged around by your draft.
Yeah, this battle up here in the top. Go ahead.
Oh, you're good.
Okay, finish your point. You're good.
Oh, no, so Santos, he managed to hold Santos off.
Right now, I was going to say the top 7, the battling that we saw earlier on amongst 7 drivers, on occasion 3-wide formation, that's gone away. It's practically single file. There are a couple of times we have a little bit of side-by-side going on here, but these drivers, for the most part, have kind of settled into single file formation. They realize the situation, just like we do up here in the booth, of how close it's going to be on fuel. And they know that if they line up single file, they're going to be sharing the draft, saving a little bit more fuel than they would if they were out there trying to make passes, putting their nose in clean air.
Here's the thing. I'm wondering if Van de Sant is honestly good on fuel, or he's banking on another caution happening here before the end. Because, I mean, this easily, if you get it wrong, this could sink your championship hopes.
Nick de Groot keeps making that move there into turn 3, keeps getting a really good run from the entrance of the corner to the center, but then he loses the momentum from the center off. Is he testing the waters here, trying to see if this was a race win scenario on the final lap, what can work and what cannot work?
I mean, obviously, he is testing the waters a little bit, but also, I mean, here's the thing. He is letting off a little bit. So running the shorter line around the track will help him kind of keep a little bit close to that back bumper. As you saw, he just got swallowed up by the horde here.
Yeah, he almost, I don't know if there might have been some contact or we just got loose there off of turn 4, and now there was near contact again, this time between Victor Santos and David Leclerc. So that's a couple of near misses for the 50 car in the span of maybe about 800 feet.
That's the thing where you have to be very careful, as Leclerc got another tap from Santos.
Those two really getting close to each other, trying to utilize the side draft to see who will take over 4th. Oh, we got a car in the infield grass. That's Eric Schaus in the 72. He hit where the short track area is on the front straightaway. It spun him around, but no caution.
You know, to be honest, I'm looking at the Leclerc-Santos incident. Those are two guys that I would not want to get around each other where they start beating and banging. I mean, Santos, I mean, he's pretty much been known as a hard driver this entire season. He really puts everything he has in these events, and I mean, Leclerc's fast, but he really does push the limits and push the edges of what's possible. So, I mean, that kind of sounds like a recipe for disaster to me.
And again, these two... Oh, wow, was that Charles Teed that pounded the wall there off of turn 4? Incredibly, it didn't look like he lost any momentum. I'm pretty sure he got it with the right side. But going back to your point there about Leclerc and Santos, they kind of fall into that category of nothing to lose. The only thing that stands between them and a trip to victory lane is about 3 race cars.
Would you believe me if I told you he missed it by just that much?
Boy, it almost looked to me like he actually did hit it, but if he was able to miss it, very, very lucky as Charles Teed is now. He's going for the top position on Alex Van de Sant, and we learned back at Iowa that, you know, tire conservation might be something here for these drivers here tonight as well. We didn't really see a whole lot of fall off with drivers that had 20-lap older tires in that run between the second and third cautions. But I have to think that tire wear, in terms of making moves, comes into play. And Charles Teed proved back at Iowa that he is very good at saving his tires for the long run.
And that's the thing where, I mean, obviously, you're never going to be 100% confident in what you have in fuel. Partially because, again, once you get out of the draft, once you start running a little bit harder, I mean, all drivers have an estimated fuel remaining tab on their driver information sheet. However, that fluctuates depending on how they're racing. If they're running more conservative, running in the draft, of course, it's going to show them a better outlook of how their fuel currently is. But that's basing it off of how they're currently running, how they're running conservatively. Once they hop out of draft, once they start pushing it a little bit more, you're going to notice that number fly down very quickly.
Oh! What a save! Oh, we know he's going to loop it! And DeSant is around. Charles Teed is around as well. Did they all keep it straight? Still green. Both cars were at least 45 degrees the wrong way there through turn 4. They all were able to straighten it back out, though, and we still remain under the green flag. Now we got another car in trouble. That, I believe, is David Leclerc in the 50. Now the caution is out.
Would you believe me if I told you about the 30 biggest fan of the at the moment?
Well, this puts Maleska back up to the race lead, and we're going to get ourselves a restart with less than 10 to go.
And that kind of throws few mile out the window, but now it's, I mean, what you got left?
Do you come down pit road? Do you maybe put on a fresh set of Firestones? Does that give you any extra speed? This was for the lead at the time. David Leclerc, Alex Van DeSant, who had a great save to start with. Then he gets loose again. Charles Teed gets spun by, I believe that was Moskowitz behind him, or it might have been Nick DeGroot. But Van DeSant was able to keep it straight. And we're going to see here with David Leclerc what happened to him.
Looks like Leclerc was just a bit unhappy with the events transpired, decided to pull off the track. But definitely seeing the instant between the 50 and the 317, at least some disagreements on space there.
So Leclerc pulls it off the racetrack down near the inside pit wall. You can maybe confirm this, Matt. Was this an admin thrown caution? Because it took a long time for that yellow flag to come out if it was for the 317 and the 5 nearly spinning over in turn 4.
No, sir. That was a iRacing thrown caution.
All right, so I don't know if that would have... It would have had to have been for the 50 starting to slow on the track, I would have to assume. When we looked back at Van DeSant as well as Charles Teed, both drivers had actually driven away from the incident and were still pointed straight, and the green flag was still out at that point in time. So we kind of wonder if Leclerc had actually waited to come down pit road before pulling off the racetrack. We probably would still be under the green flag even now.
You know, I'm looking at this here, and I'm seeing Teed, Corley, Moore, and Forsyth stay out. I don't know if this is the right move. I mean, we saw it with Schaus when he stayed out. I mean, he followed up because he run as hard as everyone else could. I don't know about this.
Well, there's a huge difference between when Charles Teed did it before as to now. Last time, he had 20-lap older tires. This time, it is 35-lap older tires. I think the key on this restart is going to be how good a jump Charles Teed's able to get. If he can open up a sizable enough gap back to drivers we know have fresh tires, like Robert Maleska III, Victor Santos, Nick DeGroot, force them to have to spend a little extra time getting around Forsyth, Moore, and Corley, who also have decided to stay out here under this caution. I think that maybe, just maybe, Charles Teed would be able to hold them off, because we're going to be going back green probably with 8 laps to go.
Here's another big kind of conundrum that I want to point out to you, which is, again, some of these drivers, it's kind of more advantage to an empty fuel tank. You're lighter, you're faster, but it does make the rear end just act up a little bit more. And again, on these restarts, you can easily kind of spin the wheels on these restarts with cold tires.
Lighter, faster, and definitely looser. The driver that actually told us here tonight that loose sensation when the fuel tank starts to get a little bit low is Eric Peterson, and he is a teammate to Charles Teed, the race leader in the 5. But I mean, look at some of these names we've got up here now. Charles Teed trying to join Robert Maleska III as a multi-time winner of the season. But then you've got Gary Corley up here in the 7. Gary Corley is 18th in the point standings. This guy's still looking for his first top 10. He might get his first top 5 to boot here tonight, depending on what happens in this final restart. Covey Moore's back up here in the 15 after he had to get a fast repair that front wing after earlier contact between him and Eric Schaus. And Craig Forsyth, who we haven't seen go to victory lane since all the way back in the season finale of Season 2 in the Indianapolis 500. He's up here with a shot once again, going to be restarting in 4th place, but then you've got the fresh tires behind them being led by the driver that's been to victory lane more than 50% of the races he started this season, Robert Maleska III.
This thing where here's where it comes into a kind of a big kind of conundrum here, where Van de Sant is currently in 14th. He needs to be up pretty much matching or beating Maleska here. Maleska's up here in 5th with the freshest tires on the field. So not a good look.
David Leclerc, as we mentioned, out of the race. Looks like he'll finish 19th tonight. Eric Schaus still sits on pit road. He's been there for about 7 minutes. Looks like he'll probably be finishing 20th here tonight. Eric Peterson is a lap down, so it'll be 17 cars in the lead lap of 18 cars that will come back around to receive this green flag, which will officially be with 8 laps to go here this evening. And we got to remind everybody that here in Dark Horse IndyCar Series, there are no overtimes. If this race has the caution come out somewhere around the completion of lap 115, 116, it's very likely the race could be ending under the caution. So there's no time to wait here for these guys, Matt. It is go time for everyone now.
And that's the key where, I mean, you have got to perform, and this is kind of the money hour. This is the moment that determines, hey, are you going to win this thing?
Oh, boy. Gary Corley was not ready for the green to drop. Kobe Moore went around his outside to pass for second. Oh. Forsyth getting on the apron. That was a save there by the 27.
He's still wrecking.
He's still loose down there.
He was still wrecking all the way out of 2.
My goodness. Drifting 1 and 2 was Craig Forsyth. That's going to drop him outside of the top 10. As Charles Teed, he's opened up a pretty good gap back to Robert Maleska III and Victor Santos, who right now, along with Nick DeGroot, they're going to try and settle it out for 4th. This is exactly what the 5 car wants to see.
Absolutely, and with the 27 having a little bit of grip issues on the bottom, that's definitely aided the top 3, obviously aided Teed getting away.
Boy, Nick DeGroot jumps up to the top.
Oh, no!
Caution! Is this race over, though, is the question, or do we get back green? It's Michael Spell who brings out the yellow. And
you got a little bit of assistance.
With 6 to go. Ooh, we might get back green, but if we do, it's going to be maybe a green-white checkered, maybe a one-lap shootout. I don't know.
I'm going to tell you, that was a man on the mission move. Van de Sant obviously was trying to push. Seth, this isn't over. There's enough time for him to re-rack and get back on.
I think there is. Just a question of how many laps are there going to be. As we'll go back to what you were talking about there. Alex Van de Sant behind Michael Spell. Oh, gets him in the right rear quarter panel, and that is a wild ride. Oh, halfway down the back straightaway, all the way into the entrance of turn 3.
So let's do a little bit of power rankings. Obviously, Teed has to be the unhappiest person in this field here at the moment. He was running away with it. Obviously, I'm willing to bet he probably would have ended up walking away with it cleanly. Gary Corley, Kobe Moore, they're a little bit less in the happy situation. Obviously, they were kind of battling up, but they were having a lack of grip. They probably were going to get caught by the 91 and the 1. And obviously, the 91 and the 1, they're happy as can be because they got all bunched back up, so they can make another run at this.
Well, here's the thing, though, that I would kind of counter that with. You know, Maleska III, DeGroot, Santos, they had about 8 laps to work with right there. This time, when we go back green, it could be 3, 2, maybe even 1 lap that they've got to work with. And they only succeeded in passing one of the drivers that had stayed out with Charles Teed. That was, of course, the 27 of Craig Forsyth. They've still got Gary Corley and Kobe Moore between themselves and Charles Teed, who was on it on that last restart. So while I agree with you that I think Charles Teed would have loved to have let this play out, green flag from that last restart to the checkers, I don't think he's going to be that terribly disappointed here because these laps that he's running under caution are less laps that drivers like Maleska III and company had to be able to reel him in.
And that's the thing where it's just time and time. And I think Teed still has the advantage here. He can easily work the restart, easily time this and try to get away. The big question is old tires, restart, and then possibly fuel.
Yeah, the fuel still maybe a little bit of a question mark here, but now with this second caution coming out, since we were talking about how close the fuel was going to be, I think these guys might be okay now. Teed, Corley, and Kobe Moore. I don't think that Charles Teed would have stayed out under the last caution if there was absolute concern of him being able to make it to the checkered flag. I think that he may have possibly even banked on this other caution now coming out, allowing him more opportunity to save fuel under pacing.
That's the thing. It's given him a chance. Like I don't think fuel's a concern here at the moment. Just the weight in the car would be a little bit of a concern in my mind. But tires would be my chief concern. Obviously, I've got 2 cars behind me who are on the same tire situation. I can easily drive away here. Big question is how quickly 2 behind me get past or possibly hold up traffic.
We saw Corley was not exactly the best on that last restart. Either he just didn't get going or he was not prepared for the acceleration point that Charles Teed had chosen. And Kobe Moore and he were actually side by side crossing the start-finish line. So if something like that happens again, that's going to be a bit of a wall for Robert Maleska III to have to try and make his way around it. We saw that he, Nick DeGroot, and Victor Santos, they were all mixing it up for the 4th position just prior to that caution coming out. So there's no guarantee that Maleska's main concern is the cars ahead of him. It may actually be the cars behind him here for what looks like could possibly be a green-white checkered, a 2-lap shootout if we get the lights out atop the pace car this time. When we end up finishing this race, keep an eye on the finishing results and see where Eric Peterson finishes tonight's race, as this caution puts him back on the lead lap. He'll restart 17th. We'll see what he can do in advancing his finishing position here in the final 2 laps.
My eyes are definitely still on the championship battle here because this could easily seal it if Robert Maleska we were talking about it last week. Robert Maleska really just kind of wins one more race. He's effectively kind of locked up the championship here. It would take a next thing to a miracle to kind of lose that one.
Van DeSanto was involved in that last caution with the contact between himself and Michael Spell, is mired all the way back in 13th place. So you're right, with the IndyCar points, that is a lot of points Maleska would gain, even if they both finished where they're running right now, and effectively could ice this championship, as these drivers will be looking towards the Milwaukee Mile. I believe it's the second short track of the season that they'll be going to next week.
Absolutely, and it's an interesting track, Milwaukee Mile, but I think it has some more characteristics in with Gateway and obviously Twin Rim Motegi that we visited earlier in the season.
Good point. Actually, I'd forgotten that they'd been to Gateway or Twin Rim make that Worldwide Technology Raceway. Yeah, they're one and the same, folks. But no, I forgot that they've been to Worldwide Technology Raceway earlier on this season. That would, I would believe, also be considered another short track these drivers are at. As here we go. Green, white, checker, 2-lap shootout. Teed with a great restart, and they're side by side for second. Now, if you're the 91, what do you do here? Because you're running out of time.
I'd just say send it. First thing, it's whatever flag comes out next ends the race, and that's the thing where, if you don't send it, you're not trying.
Oh, he's cleared those 2 machines. He's got about 3 car lengths between himself and Charles Teed. This is going to get good. Final lap here tonight at Kentucky. Teed going to be looking out his rearview mirror more than the windshield. Maleska jumps up to the top side with the fresher tires.
Teed definitely holding strong, as you see. It looks like 3 wide behind. Corley gets turned.
Nick DeGroot and Corley on the back straightaway. Never mind, we race back to the checkers. Teed's going to get passed around the top side. Maleska's fresh tires work. He's going to pick up his 7th win of the season here tonight in the Bluegrass State.
I think Santos almost sneaked through for a second place.
1/1000th of a second was the interval between him and Teed for second place.
I'm looking with Corley, and I'd say it's almost a replay that we saw at Gateway, where a driver gets shoved down to the apron and pretty much just says, all right, I'm done, and just kind of takes matters into his own hands.
Well, Corley's going to cross the line in 17th. DeGroot, who hooked him, is going to finish in the top 5 in 5th place. And how about that move by Robert Maleska III? He basically set up Charles Teed off of turn 2. He said, all right, you're going to give me the top side? Well, remember, I got the fresh tires, and he kind of pinned Charles Teed down through 3 and 4. Teed could not get the power down on exit, and Maleska handily was able to win this race in a shootout that I honestly thought Teed was going to be able to hold him off.
And here's the thing where Teed was just hoping he got that restart that he got last caution, and unfortunately just did not get that restart. I mean, I'm looking at Maleska. Maleska is about 5-10 miles an hour faster than Teed in certain sections.
I'm gonna go back to your opinion. Yeah, I don't think that Charles Teed wanted to see that caution come out.
Yeah.
I thought maybe he'd be okay. I thought with it being a limited number of laps, he'd be able to hold him off. But credit to Robert Maleska III, as you said. I mean, he right now, 6 trips to victory lane. He's handily leading the point standings. He was go for broke here tonight, and he was not going to lift there through 3 and 4.
Well, he probably had the same idea on his mind as we did ours, where, hey, this could easily lock up the championship with not finishing in 11th. I mean, this could be his big break of, hey, like, this could effectively lock it up.
Great run for all of the teammates out of Twist and Trojan Motorsports, though. You got Maleska with the win, Dylan Moskowitz in 6th, and Jeff Highsong popped up there into 7th in the closing stages. And look at some of these other drivers back here that we really didn't talk about tonight that are getting top 10 finishes as well. Jim Brooks is going to finish 8th. Kristen Nelson will finish in 9th, and back-to-back top 10s for the 57 of Jim Herrick.
Not bad at all. This is just confidence builders, I'd say.
There's Van de Sants. You talked about 11th place here tonight. That's a lot of points that he's going to lose to Maleska III. Maleska III is also going to get those bonus points for winning tonight's race. A couple of other drivers that had some comeback runs, if you will. Benjamin Combs, after getting some damage on the front straightaway, he's going to finish in 13th, and Eric Peterson was only able to pick up 1 spot there on that final restart from 17th up to 16th, with Gary Corley getting involved in that wreck on the back straightaway on the final lap. And then you look on down, and a lot of drivers with some hard luck here tonight that had, let's be honest, race-winning cars. David Leclerc, Eric Schaus, those were a couple of drivers that finished way down the running order. And of course, we've documented earlier on the hardships for the 99 Matt Wagner, 3rd in the standings coming into tonight's race.
Boy, this is a pretty spicy race going into a short track.
Yeah, no doubt.
There's a lot of extracurricular activity here.
And obviously, there's going to be some disagreement over space here tonight. And while these definitely are not bulky like the stock cars, where you can kind of settle a disagreement out there, might kind of change the way that certain drivers will race with others, as a lot of times scores do get settled at short tracks. But we're going to have to wait for that when we eventually get to the Milwaukee Mile. Let's see if we can talk with a few of our drivers that finished up inside of the top 3. I'm not certain if we're going to be able to get Victor Santos or not.
We have Victor here, but I'm not sure if...
I believe the last time we did an interview with him, he actually had to have his translator with him. So we'll actually hold off on him just for the brief moment, just in case they actually have to get that situated. Let's see if we can talk with 2nd place Charles Teed. Hey, Charles, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Been a while. How you doing, gentlemen?
Well, man, it has been a while, but your car looked really strong here tonight. Matt and I were kind of bouncing opinions off of each other when that final caution came out of whether you wanted to see that yellow flag come out or whether you didn't. Now, Matt said that you didn't. I thought maybe you did because it would mean it'd be only a couple of laps you'd have to hold off the fresher tires behind you rather than 8 laps, which was the situation prior to that yellow flag coming out, which was actually the case there.
Yeah, so I don't know. I wish whatever happened didn't happen for damn sure, but I think really what it came down to is it brought the pack back together again, and Robert's so freaking fast that I was almost a sitting duck on those old tires. I kind of wish it had not come out because I think we'd at least see an alternate ending. However, those guys are just really, really fast. So I tried to gamble. I had a fast car all night. I just tried going off strategy to get myself in front of them because I thought I could give them a run for their money if I could get out in front of them. But it wasn't meant to be tonight. I sure love this track.
Charlie, I mean, my heart goes out for you, but man, that was a finish.
Yeah,
Is-
we had
was
a
there-
war.
Was there anything you could have done?
I just watched the replay of the last lap, and I could have possibly run him a little higher to the wall down the back straight and really sent it into 3. The question is, I don't like to race like that and I don't like to be raced like that. I would have been out of control, and it could have dumped both of us. So it could have been a 14th place finish with a wrecked car. So I didn't do that. Robert races me very clean, so I race him back the same way. I don't know that there's anything else really I could have done. I think if I had new tires, I had every bit the pace they did. In a lot of races, I can't say that, but I had a fast car tonight. I'm pretty quick around here.
Back in the early stages, we saw you and a couple of other drivers pull the strategy of staying out on what I think at the time was 20-lap older tires than the rest of the competition. What was there that you were able to learn from that run that maybe played a factor into you deciding to stay out and get that track position late in this race?
Well, I saw that I was able to run with them. My times were every bit as fast. Once I knew the fuel wasn't an issue, I was not coming in there when that last accident. What I really wish had not happened was the accident with David and Alex, because I think I was really sitting in a pretty good spot there with my car. But yeah, it was that was some really, really intense and clean racing up front. Great job by Victor. Great job by Robert to be on the podium.
Well, Charles, a great run for you nonetheless here tonight. A lot of momentum. You had a solid outing last week at Watkins Glen as well, picked up a spot in the standings, and based on some of the drivers up ahead of you in points running into some issues here tonight, more than likely we're going to see you up inside of the top 5 in points heading to Milwaukee next week. So congratulations on that. We're now going to give you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Yes, I want to thank you guys at FRN. You guys do such an incredible job. I really, really appreciate it, Matthew. Everything. I mean, you guys do such a great job. Want to start there. Want to thank all the guys that come out and run with us every week here at Dark Horse. It's a lot of work to run this league, so I appreciate all of them coming and joining us. I want to thank ESTV for also broadcasting your broadcast back on television around the world. Really big thanks to them. Butt Kicker, who puts on the league, and HyperX, who's now a new sponsor on the league as well. So big shout out to all of them and to all the Dark Horse guys. At least we got second, but dag nabbit, I wanted to win tonight.
Yeah, you definitely got close.
Yeah, that one stings. Yeah, that one stinks. I really wanted that one, but you let Robert know that was a hell of a pass.
That's Charles Teed. Second place here tonight at Kentucky. Almost pulled off the victory, but once again, job well done there, Charles, and best of luck next week.
Thanks, gentlemen.
And we're still waiting to see about the situation here with our third place finisher, Victor Santos. So while we still wait on that, let's see if we can get a word down in victory lane with tonight's race winner, Robert Maliska III. Hey, Robert, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you, boys.
Wow, what a shootout here tonight at Kentucky. It came down to that last lap pass. Now, we knew that you had the tires to be able to pass him, but we weren't necessarily certain which line it was going to be the preferred line to make that pass. It looked like, from our angle, that Teed gave you the outside line. Was that the case, or was that the line that you wanted to go up to make that move through 3 and 4?
I think he did kind of give it to me. I did have a pretty big run off of 2, but I definitely wanted the outside just because I've been running there, or the cars I could pass, I could only really pass from the outside. So having the outside there, I knew I had them, especially on the newer tires.
Buddy, you keep finding ways to make this difficult and then just make it look spectacular, just running through the field. I mean, we heard from Charlie, but he said it was a hell of a pass. I mean, what was your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say a pretty textbook pass with fresh tires. I mean, if you could really get to someone's outside, if you're both in clean air, you could basically just get the run on them because they had the lift off of turn 4 there to not get into you. So if you had the outside anytime, really, it seemed like that was the preferred line to pass.
Now, Robert, we've seen a lot of your wins this season be dominating performance. Tonight was certainly not a walk in the park. I want to go back to a portion around the midway segment of this race where you were in the middle of, I think it was, what, two or three three-wide situations. Did we just lose Blackcast? Oh, we lost Matt. Okay, so
I'm here.
but we saw you in the middle of two or three wide situations up on the top against that outside wall. I mean, the racing here tonight, especially early on, was crazy. How difficult is it to? I mean, the cars looked rather steady, but when you've got drivers that are racing in that close proximity, how difficult is it out there on track at a track like this?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I gotta give credit to everyone in the league because that was, at least on my end, that was probably the most fun league race we've had all season without close racing, not really much contact. But yeah, I didn't do much practice in the draft there early, so I was kind of worried that I'd maybe get shuffled back when I was fifth, sixth spot there. But just going where the clean air was, I was able to rip that high line and pick off a few guys and somehow get back to the front in probably, 3-4 laps.
All right, so 7th win here tonight. We already know you had that streak of 4 in a row. If you'd been able to win last week, we'd been talking about 6 in a row. I mean, it's certainly looking like the championship is going to be locked up before we even get to Indy. So is the mindset now just go out there, have fun, and try and win as many races before the conclusion of the season?
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, just really, I mean, I'm happy with top fives. I know that I'm not going to win every race. I've had some very good luck, definitely compared to a lot of guys. Like I know Alex is up front there the whole race. He deserved a much better finish than P11. But yeah, just keep trying. Finish these races strong and hopefully carry the momentum into next season. Even though it's kind of far ahead.
Well, great run here tonight for you, Robert, and thank you up here in the booth for giving us an exciting finish to be able to call. That was a lot of fun to watch that green-white checkered, if you will, here tonight to finish out the race at Kentucky. Congratulations on your 7th win of the season. Now we're going to give you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Yeah, thanks to you guys, FRN, for broadcasting and streaming this whole thing. HyperX for sponsoring our league now. And it was great working with Dylan there. We were actually saving fuel that last run. If it didn't go green, we had a 1-2 on lock, but the caution kind of messed it up. But yeah, great job to everyone in the league racing. That was a really fun race. Hopefully, it looked good on the stream.
That's Robert Maleska III, 7-time winner here in the Dark Horse IndyCar Series, and continues to grow his points lead heading into the Milwaukee Mile next week. Congratulations, Robert, on a job well done, and looking forward to seeing what you do here for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, thanks, boys. Have a good one.
Well, while we're waiting for Victor Santos's translator to get in, let's just go ahead and pull Kobe Moore here real quick.
Hey, Kobe, it's Matt and Seth up here in the booth. You got us?
What's going on, Matt and Seth?
Man, hardship at Watkins Glen last week, and that was a bump in a road that has been paved with consistency for you. Nice to see you get back on track here tonight with a 4th place run. And man, you were up there in the hunt for it in the closing stages. What little more do you think you needed to have to make it a 4-man fight coming to that start-finish line?
A better starting position. That's about all a guy needs. When you look at an entire race and the spots where you got like put back, I don't have too many of those aside from my Schaus incident. So I mean, if you can just eliminate an incident and start up a bit further, you just get in these different pockets with these setups, and it kind of carries you around. And tonight was fantastic. You could kind of run around for half a run and not abuse the tires, and then feel like Superman towards the end of it. It was stellar.
So, Kobe, obviously, it was a kind of a bold move, deciding not to take tires here at the end of the race, deciding not to come down when everyone else came down. I mean, I've got to ask, do you think that would have kind of panned out if no caution came out, or?
No, that is not the position me as a racer likes to be in. I want to be able to be in a position where I'm just kind of looking forward and pushing forward, finding gaps and taking advantage of other people's bad luck. But Yeah, I absolutely hate being in that position. However, we've seen in this league a few times it work out for guys. We've seen Gary Corley make his way up front towards end of races with some good tire strategy. Charlie's kind of really known for it at this point, I think, this season. So you have to try these things, and then with a little bit of contact on that last lap, it kept me kind of towards the front in that top 5.
Obviously, we've seen in the last couple of weeks, barring last week at Watkins Glen, your program has been really on par. You've been up in the top 10 consistently week after week, and here tonight a top 5 run. I mean, what kind of confidence does this give you heading down the home stretch of the season that we might possibly see this 15 in victory lane before season's end?
This home stretch is the factory-backed motorsports prime piece of schedule. Next week's going to be a little tough. Milwaukee's a different place, but the rest of the schedule is kind of our bread and butter. Nick and I have absolutely performed at places like that in the past, and definitely hope to do so this year. We're kind of a 2.5-man team. We have George and Zaldo coming in and going, and we're still in contention for that team title. That's something that we're really prioritizing as a duo here. So just kind of getting consistent finishes and finishing up front. Rob Malechka's got kind of an iron grip on the win column here. So Nick and I are just focusing on those top 5 so we can keep these factory back cars and our partners up front.
Well, Kobe, great run for you here tonight. 4th place performance at Kentucky, and we're now going to give you a chance to do some sponsors, thank yous, and shout outs.
Yeah, can't do this without Nick and the factory backed boys. Here we got Cowboy Shit on the car, the Ty Posabon Foundation, and then I just gotta definitely throw it back to my dad who has been watching week in and week out. Cool to albeit a 4th place finish, get in the booth with FRN. So thanks for doing what you guys do, and thanks for the exposure you give sim racing.
That's Kobe Moore, top 5 here tonight at Kentucky. Congratulations, John. Well done there, Kobe. We look forward to seeing this consistency continue into Milwaukee next week.
Thanks so much, guys.
Now, I do believe we do have Victor's translator here with us, so let's see if we can now get a word with our 3rd place finisher, Victor Santos. Victor, it's Matt and Seth up in the booth. You got us?
Hey, what's up, man?
Wow, great finish here tonight. Photo finish between yourself and the 5, but I want to go back to the midway portion of this race. Looked like you were having a lot of fun out there with those moves you were making for the race lead.
Que quiere volver a buena foto finish y que quiere volver a la mitad de la carrera más o menos, que es
Sí.
donde tuviste ahí unos, como dice, un buen ritmo y unos tire y afloja con los demás. ¿Qué opinas?
Lo intento I'm gonna
Puede.
try to speak in English. Yeah?
Yeah,
Maybe.
go right ahead.
Oh, okay. In the middle of the race, well, was so difficult do an overtake in the turn 3 and 4. So just I hold my ritmo, no sé cómo es, my
Rhythm. O
rhythm,
pace.
yeah, and wait my momentum.
Oh.
Just that is it. that is all. That is all.
Absolutely. So, Victor, looking back at that last lap, we
Yeah.
saw you trying to make that aggressive move. Scott teed at the line. Do you think maybe if you had a few hundred extra feet, maybe you could have took the challenge over to Maletska?
Te dice que vieron ahí los movimientos estos agresivos para pillar al final de todo la posición, y si lo hubieras adelantado y tuvieras unos metros más, ¿crees que podrías haber competido con Maleska?
Well, fight with Maleska is so hard. So maybe yes, but I don't think so. Maleska put me the easy way for me. So he knows how to drive, how to send me dirty air. So I don't know, but we will see in the next race in Milwaukee, I think.
Well, Victor, we always have a lot of fun watching your Neon 24 making its way through the field, these mile and a halves. Is there anybody out there that you'd like to, any sponsors or anybody that you'd like to give some thanks and shout outs to?
Que disfruta mucho viendo el coche neón que es muy divertido verte y que si quieres dar algún agradecimiento a algún sponsor o a alguien en concreto.
Well, of course, always I appreciate it and say thanks to my streaming in Twitch. Every time, every day, the people support me and help me with the words. So thanks so much. My streaming.
That's Victor Santos. He brings it home. Third place here tonight at Kentucky after a solid outing. Once again, congratulations on a great run there, Victor.
Marcos.
Sí, básicamente felicidades y qué buena carrera.
Thanks so much to the competition and Charles Teed and everyone. Thanks so much.
So that is going to conclude our post-race interviews here tonight. Just want to give a special thanks as well to Victor's translator as well. It's the second time that we talked with Victor, and appreciate the fact that his translator comes in here so that we were able to, talk here with Victor in these post-race interviews. So just want to give a little bit of appreciation as well to his translator. But Matt, I mean, this race it took me by surprise, just in the fact that I expected at the start, we were looking possibly at a race that was going to go maybe green the entirety of the way. And we had those mid-race cautions. Then I thought, well, we might go green the rest of the way and it might come down to fuel strategy. And then what do you know? It's a 2-lap shootout to decide tonight's race.
And see, that's what's so tough about Kentucky, where, it is a fuel mileage track, but with these Indy cars, they're so aerodynamic. They're so dependent on the draft. And when you get all of them together, boy, these things have speed.
Now, you were in the booth about 3 weeks ago when these drivers were at Worldwide Technology Raceway, as you brought up, and you're absolutely right. The Milwaukee Mile that we're going to next week would probably be the best comparison of a track that we've been to previously this season. So, based off what you saw back there at WWT, what do you expect we're going to see next week with these drivers?
If I'd learned anything from Worldwide Technology, I'd imagine a lot of disagreement in the corners. Just because everyone wants that preferred line. Everyone wants the inside line. And yes, the outside line does work, but not as well as that inside line. So you're going to want to fight for it. And there's going to be a premium on real estate.
You also have to wonder if maybe typical short track, if we're going to have a late race restart, kind of like what we had here tonight at Kentucky. That would certainly be interesting to watch at a track with a little bit less length, where a little bit less time to be able to make a move. But here tonight, the move was made. Robert Maleska III around Charles Teed in the final two corners to pick up his 7th win of the season, extend his points lead here with only 6 races remaining during the season, and one step closer to clinching the Season 3 Dark Horse IndyCar Series Championship. Matt's been a good one here tonight under the lights of Kentucky. Appreciate you joining me in the booth.
I appreciate you leaving the door unlocked.
Always unlocked for you. Keys under the mat. Hope everybody enjoyed our coverage here tonight. Appreciate you all joining us this evening for some IndyCar racing at Kentucky. If you guys enjoyed it, be sure to tune in next week as we continue on the season at the Milwaukee Mile. Green flag scheduled to fly at 8:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next Wednesday night. But for Matthew Rodriguez, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your evening as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flat Out Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flat Out Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flat Out Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flat Out Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.